Man, I'm a little nervous to put this out. It's gonna be quite controversial. If you guys have been watching my content for a while, you know that I love this country. However, now that I'm almost an honorary Pole, that means I got some things to complain about. I've left some of the more controversial ones towards the end. Before you go in the comments and type, "Get out of my effing country, you Chinese person," make sure to watch the whole video before sharing your thoughts. Which brings me to my first point, the fact that Poles have to argue about everything and are always complaining. I don't understand why we can't just chill. It feels like when you hang out with Polish people, for some reason, it evolves into arguments about politics or religion or about anything, right? And I even get this in my comments. Sometimes I'll make a comment like, "Ooh, water's wet," and then people in the comments will be like, "What do you mean water's wet?" I do understand that Polish people complain out of a place of love though, right? I think that's very similar to the Asian way of thinking. They've had their land taken away from them so many times. Every time they've had to rebuild it, they're always trying to find the best solution. And honestly, that's something that I can respect. If you take a look at other content creators talking about Poland, they only say really positive things because I think they fear the backlash that will come from any small form of criticism. There's this weird double standard where Polish people will complain about their country, but as soon as a foreigner does it, then everybody gets super mad and then they attack the foreigner, even though some of the criticisms may be valid. A really good example of this is the graffiti. I know a lot of people share my sentiment when I say graffiti makes a country and a city look cheaper. Now, there's a difference between graffiti and street art because here in Poland, there are many great examples of beautiful street art. It's a shame because Poland is such a beautiful country with beautiful architecture, a lot of amazing things to see, but just pointless tagging with random words or initials or stuff like that, I just think it hurts the overall image of Poland. Another thing that annoys me about Poland are the bad drivers. Every time I get into a Bolt, half of the time I feel like I'm fighting for my life. I'm holding onto the seats, clutching at everything. I feel like it's so common seeing my Bolt drivers get angry or get a bunch of road rage and complain about other drivers. One of the biggest things I have an issue with, and I think we can all agree upon this, is the weather. When I was here during the winter, I was suffering from seasonal depression. The cold weather didn't bug me that much. It was more the cloudiness. Now I know what to expect, so I think it'll be a lot easier to handle. Krakow specifically, they haven't found a better way to heat all the homes without causing all this air pollution. On the one hand, you have winter, which I love the cold, but it's a little miserable because it's cloudy and you have a lot of air pollution. The summer isn't a lot better because a lot of buildings here in Poland don't have AC. And this summer, for some reason, was one of the worst summers on record. I swear it's been 30 degrees for the last 4 months and I'm freaking sick of it. But if AC was a lot more accessible here, I think the summer would have been a lot more enjoyable. They have a saying here that the weather changes just like the moods of Polish women, and that's why we love them. Another thing that is very difficult, and this is definitely my fault as a foreigner, but the language is still very, very difficult.
Bruh.
I get a lot of people in the comments telling me that I have to learn Polish, but it's so difficult for me for some reason. I've learned Spanish in the past and that was quite easy to pick up. When I'm trying to get better at my Mandarin, obviously I grew up with it, so it was quite easy for me. But for some reason, Polish, every time I look at it with all of the words and the sounds that you make with your mouth, it's just so difficult. Not only is it hard to say, you also have one of the most complex grammar structures ever. So it almost seems to me that Polish people made their language so complex on purpose so that other people could not infiltrate their country. Maybe it's just like a conspiracy or something, but that's something that I've definitely thought about. I'm definitely gonna put the effort into it. I just had to organize a few things before I made those videos. Those are gonna be coming out next month, so stay tuned for that. Another pet peeve that I have is the fact that people here smoke a lot. I hear that it's definitely changing. It was a lot worse back in the day. A lot of the younger generation tend not to smoke, even though there's still a big population that does. And to me, it's just kind of annoying walking around everywhere and smelling cigarette smoke, especially when people are smoking in the apartments and then the whole entire hallway all of a sudden smells like cigarette. And something that I found quite funny, and if you go into a Jabka or anything, there are specific energy drinks that you can't buy unless you're over a certain age. So if you buy the energy drinks, they'll card you. But if you buy cigarettes or alcohol, they won't. Another big issue for Poland, and I think a lot of foreigners are going to feel this, is that it is very difficult for people to make local friends. Thankfully, I've been here for almost a year, and I've been able to make friends with a lot of people in my building, the administration of my building, and because of my YouTube channel, I'm quite well known here, so people have approached me. I understand it's one thing to be closed off to people you don't know, but also maybe it's just that's the American inside of me. Poland has so many great things to offer, but if people come to this country and don't feel welcome, I think it can definitely sour their experience. Polish hospitality is some of the best in the world, and it's a shame that not a lot of people will get to experience it because they don't know how to make the first move to making Polish friends. Another issue that I've seen is just the bureaucracy here in Poland is super bad. When you're trying to get anything done here, if you go to different lawyer agencies or government agencies, the information is never clear. People will always tell you different things. If you're trying to submit paperwork for a visa, it can take a couple months, it could take a couple weeks, it could take years, right? There's no real consistency with it. Poland is an advancing country in so many ways. If you go to Warsaw, they're building quite rapidly and it's a very modern city, but I feel like a lot of the technical infrastructure is lacking. Poland is known for being one of the biggest producers of tech talent in the world, but I think because of the way the country is set up, all these people work for outside countries. So it's always been an enigma to me that there's so much tech talent here, but the government doesn't seem to be reinvesting in their tech systems to make things a lot more advanced. Okay, so let's talk about a controversial one. Something I've noticed about Polish people is that you guys have this national self-pity. You have this huge chip on your shoulder because of all the things that have been done to you guys in the past throughout history. And I totally get that. And I believe that Polish people should be super proud of their accomplishments and everything that they've done. All of their famous people have been intellectuals and artists. Music culture here is extremely deep. There's like this overall vibe that Polish people are just always feeling sorry about themselves because of everything that happened in history. Something that I really admire about my American culture, we have this really big optimism about the future and the world. I think that optimistic mentality is important for growth and innovation and pushing the country forward. And I think maybe this negative mentality of being like, oh, woe is me, or not being optimistic, if anything, being a little more pessimistic, is maybe holding the Polish people back. I know that's going to be a controversial one. I would love to hear your thoughts down below, but it's kind of a paradox because yes, there's this national self-pity, and yes, Polish people argue amongst themselves, but as soon as they hear any form of outside criticism, it's like the Polish army attacks and they go after that person, regardless if the criticism was good or not.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you. Oh, kurwa!
So this is actually an observation that I've made about other people making content here in Poland. Reaction videos about Polish culture and content and music are doing extremely well right now. But when I see other creators talk about Poland, it's only positive comments. I think people are a little afraid to say anything negative about Poland. Maybe it's because they don't want to get any hate from people. Maybe it's because they just want to do it for the views. But even me, I'm quite open about all my pros and cons about everywhere that I go, and I get a lot of hate for it, but that's just how it is. I believe it's better to tell the truth than to just sugarcoat anything. But even sometimes when I'm writing a script or filming a video, I'll be hesitant to give a valid con about a place because I know that Polish people can be a little sensitive about people criticizing their culture and their home and everything. As someone who really loves this country and wants to see it progress into the future, I would like to be able to give my opinion as an outsider, but it's hard to talk about these things if the Polish people are a little closed off to hearing outside criticism. Polish people are definitely entitled to their own opinion. It's their country. I'm just here as a guest. But as someone who really loves this country so much, I would love to be able to give my honest input without the fear of receiving a bunch of hate comments. But you know, that's just kind of how the internet is, so maybe that's just wishful thinking. My experience with customer service has been very mixed. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, because kurwa, he say kurwa, you need some kurwa receipt or kurwa code. No.
Now, something I do appreciate is that you don't have to tip the waiters here. So because of that, I guess you're not getting the best service. But I would say my worst experiences have been talking to people that work in public transportation or at banks. Some of those, I guess, service jobs where I feel like I'm trying to get some help, I'm trying to be polite, but people are just dismissing me or they see me as a foreigner and they're not really willing to help me. It's just very hard to get the correct answer or exactly what I'm looking for. One of my biggest complaints is the public transportation system here is really good and really bad at the same time. So within the city, the tram system is actually very good. Here in Krakow, I've had zero complaints. One of my big issues is between cross-city travels. Specifically, some of the train stations need to be updated. There's this one station in Warsaw where the board with the arrivals and the departures only has like 6 options. So if you want to know which station to be at, you have to be there waiting. They'll let you know like 3 to 5 minutes before you need to get on that platform. So people are running all over the place trying to catch their train because it's so unclear. Yes, there are a bunch of like timetables on the wall that you can read, but I'm like, yo, we're in 2024. This has happened to me so many times already. I think it's on one platform and then last minute it's either delayed or it's supposed to be on another platform. So I have to go down the stairs, run to another platform, go to the train. Sometimes I've barely made my trains. It's very confusing, and I think it should be a little more transparent with how they show like exactly what trains go where. So this is something that I've gotten used to, but I know this bugs a lot of people. Everything is closed here on Sundays. Yes, the restaurants are open. The grocery stores are closed. The mall is closed. It's very, very inconvenient, and I guess maybe it's just my American capitalist brain saying like, why aren't things open on Sunday? I've heard like 50-50 responses from the locals about this. Some people like that it's a day to rest. Some people find it quite annoying, but this is a question I bring to you guys. You think it's a good thing or a bad thing? I wish there were more late night food options available. Maybe in Warsaw, there are a lot more. If you are a night person like me, you want to get something to eat really late at night, it's actually quite difficult to find. And I mean like legit late night options, not just kebab. I want to get some good Polish food late at night. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, maybe it's just a difference in culture. But when I was in Vietnam, being able to get pho or a hot meal at 1 in the morning was literally the most amazing thing, and I wish that Poland had that as well. I know a lot of Polish women complain that Polish men don't really dress well. To be fair, I don't think there are a lot of really good options. If you go to places in Western Europe, there are a lot more brands to choose from, whereas here in all of Poland, when I go to the malls, it's always the same companies. I wish there was a little more variety in the clothing options, because I think if fashion was a little bigger here in Poland, the men would be, I guess, better inclined to want to dress better. For example, like the Italians. But I'm someone who really loves fashion and I follow it heavily, so maybe that's just a personal opinion. Please don't kill me. Expecto Patronum.